and welcome to this episode 3 of Kairos Radio. It's good to be back with you, and what a week, what a few weeks, what a month, what a year it's been. I think summed up in what's going on. The words what's going on are confusion, probably is a single word that best describes what's at play here. And I want to address that a little bit today in our session. Again, if you're new to the program, this is the first time you're hearing it. This is Kairos Radio. Here we are trying to bring clarity to the moment. So Kairos in the Greek means a season, an opportune time, an opportunity, if you will, where things align. So if you picture us on a left to right timeline, and then you picture a Kairos moment, that would be Chronos, left to right, and then Kairos would be top to bottom, where they intersect. That's the opportunity. That's the time that we are in. That opportunity would present itself. And so this comes from the biblical thought of God giving an opportunity, a season. And I completely and absolutely 100% believe in and telling you that from personal conviction, personal prayer, personal reading, everything that would lead me to believe that this is an opportune time we are entering into. We are on the incoming edge of it, if you will. And so I'll kind of leave that there for now. We can address that probably at a future show. But today, because of what's going on in the world, everything from Iran to gas prices and just everything in general, like there's no shortage of news, whether it's the AI, what's been coming out with AI lately, and the fact that recent AI models from Anthropic, who runs the Claude program, they have a program that they are a model, if you will, of these of this AI program, large language model called Mythos, and it is apparently, I'm not here to throw gasoline on any sort of fire, but it apparently is quite concerning and somewhat scary if you're looking at it from that point of view of what it can do to current software, old software, and how it can find and manipulate bugs and weaknesses, things that humans really can't see and that haven't, even over decades, haven't been able to penetrate some of these weaknesses in these older software programs. This thing can analyze and come up with great exploits. So this is something that's definitely concerning to a lot of people. I believe there was an emergency meeting with the banks, I think, with the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, about this. So that's either has happened or is going to happen. I saw a news blurb come through that. So this is a big issue anywhere, because we're a modern society that runs on software for practically everything. And if the software fails or has a lockup, it will cause chaos. So I kind of wanted to address things of that nature. But what happens to us? So here we're all about how do we seize that opportunity. So there's a phrase, and it's sometimes used. I don't think it's overused, because I think it's very, very poignant, I guess, is the word I'm looking for right now. And that phrase is analysis paralysis. So it kind of comes from the thought that I am sitting here analyzing everything that's coming through the system. I am seeing, are we in war or are we not in war? Are we fixing to be done with the Gulf and the Strait's going to be open and there's plenty of oil flowing and everything goes back to normal? Or are we fixing to invade with ground troops, Carg Island, seize the ports, blockading the Strait? We're gonna have some conflict with Iran, but also with China and Russia, the backers of Iran. What's that look like? Right. And so you're staring at that problem. You're staring at this AI problem I just described. You're staring at whatever personal things are going on. Maybe you got laid off, maybe all these other things. But you end up getting, when you're analyzing, as humans do, we're information receivers, and then our brains process it, and then we have to make decisions based on what we see. Now, that's looking at it on a human level. Well, if you're coming at it from a spiritual level, you want to go a little bit deeper than that. You want to not only take in the information, but also match that against your belief. What does the Word of God say? What does my prayer time and my reading of the Bible, what is that pushing me towards? I need to overlay what I input to what I am going to do. So analysis paralysis can really be difficult for us to overcome. And so I want to caution you not to get locked into the news, not to get locked into what's happening and then, pivot to the next thing that's happening and then pivot to another thing that's happening. And then just you kind of in this like taking in. Imagine you just got transplanted into the middle of a burning city and everything's on fire and people are running around and you have no context for what's going on. You're just going to kind of freeze. But the important thing is to take in what little bit of information, the least amount of information you can take in to understand your situation and then make a move on top of that. So obviously we're a program. We are sponsored by Alpha Omega Gold, a physical precious metals company that I myself founded and own, and that we are truly a Christian-based company that helps people with physical precious metals, whether direct delivery to their homes and in their hands or in a private depository in their retirement account. So that's what we help people with. But a lot of times I talk to folks who are on the fence or they have other issues in life, and we all do. We may have, elderly parents, we may have sick children, we may have a crisis at work, we may have who knows what. There's an endless amount of problems because we all have them because we're human. But what happens is they put off purchasing, they put off moving, they put off things when that opportunity is there. That Kairos moment for them to make that purchase is there and they do not act on it. And typically they will lose out. They will not make the moves necessary to get them the structure and the safety or the, how could I better put it, the consistency that they're looking for. Having physical items, having something converted from a fiat system into something that's tangible does make a difference. When you hold gold and silver, you do realize this has more value than paper money. There is a loss of value in the paper money you hold versus the physical precious metals you can hold in your hand. So we often run across this, that people who are in the middle of thinking about it or consulting about it, or we're just, explaining to them how the process works and they seem really good. And then you'll talk to them a week later, they kind of drop off. And then suddenly, hey, I have a problem at home, a dog. I remember one lady many years ago, she was ready to move. And then I just couldn't get a hold of her for 2 or 3 months. And I'm not saying no excuse is valid. This is not what this is about. But in her life, she had chaos erupt. I mean, she was in the middle of a discussion with a neighbor when apparently 2 dogs started fighting, and she got in the middle of that, had to go to the hospital, stitches. It was a big deal. And she just disappeared. And that's a valid reason, right? You can't do it then. But that does also show the importance of when you're in the middle of making a move, you don't need to jump. You don't need to say, okay, I got to make this today. The world's burning down. Sometimes that's the case. You've got to leap before you can think. There's not always time to think. I've been there in my life. You just got to jump and there's just nothing you can do. And you hope everything leading up to that, you pray everything leading up to that God's going to direct your steps and just trust him with it. So sometimes that is what has to happen. But often or not, it's about receiving the information, analyzing it, and then confidently making a step and not being in that squishy gray area where, frankly, a lot of us like to stay, because squishy gray is no commitment. It's no, if I don't move from here, the worst that could happen is I could lose out. And then it's just kind of a self-fulfilling thing. I just kind of, am squishy into nothing. But, leadership is difficult. Leadership in your own life is difficult because when you step out, everyone's staring at you. Everyone is looking at you. Are they going to make it? Are they going to make a mistake? Are they going to fall or fail? So these are things that people are afraid to do. And because we're human, it's perfectly reasonable that we have some concerns, that we have some, I don't know a diplomatic way to put it, but we're a little afraid, frankly. So I am just here to encourage you that you have to take in that information, especially with what's going on now. I don't know a time in my life where things have been more confusing. I know the Bible tells me that God is not the author of confusion, so I don't have to stress about that, but I understand when I see it that there's something at play. So Stock market at all-time highs recently, or going up toward all-time highs. I'm not sure whether that was in the Dow or the Nasdaq. I believe that may have been in the Nasdaq, but we're pushing anyway. We're pushing in this all-time high in this kind of environment. But we're also having Europe seemingly running very, very low on fuel. Australia rationing fuel. All kinds of things. Just chaos that is starting, a system that is starting to crap. We have fertilizer issues. We have all kinds of issues that are stemming from what is going on in the Middle East. And so if we're not careful, we're just staring at the problem and we're not taking action. Today, I want to encourage you to take some action. Action can be as little as, hey, I'm going to give Alpha Omega Gold a call. 855-4AO-GOLD. I'm going to look them up on the web, AO.GOLD. I'm going to fill out the little form there, and I'm going to put in the notes, send me some more information, give me a call. Is there something I can do? That's action. You're not committing yourself to buying. You're not committing yourself to anything. But hey, I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to let grass grow under my feet, and I'm not going to have a problem because I know that if I look back on it, I won't have regret. I'll be like, this is all I could do. This is what I did. I had a choice. I made it. I stepped forward in bravery, and I am taking some action on my behalf.
Hi, this is David Holland, founder of Alpha Omega Gold. Let me be direct for a moment. Things are changing, and they're changing quickly. Inflation is still eating away at purchasing power. The national debt continues to climb, and the financial system is more fragile than most people realize. You don't have to be an expert to see this. You can feel it every time you go to the store or look at your savings. The real question is, what are you doing about it? Because hoping things get better is not a strategy. At Alpha Omega Gold, we help people take action, real, practical steps to protect what they've worked hard for. That means moving a portion of your savings out of vulnerable paper assets into physical gold and silver, assets that have held value for thousands of years. This isn't about panic, it's about preparation. And here's the truth. The people who wait until everything is obvious are usually too late. We've already seen banks fail. We've seen markets swing wildly. And when confidence shifts, it happens fast. That is why we're having more conversations than ever right now with people just like you, people who simply want to protect their retirement, their savings, and their future. Whether it's rolling over an IRA or 401k, or just getting started with physical metals, we walk you through it step by step with honesty, clarity, and zero pressure. But you do need to take that first step. Go to AO.gold. That's AO.GOLD. Or call us today at 855-426-4653 and talk to a real person who can help you understand your options. Don't wait for the next headline to make the decision for you. This is David Holland with Alpha Omega Gold, encouraging you to prepare wisely, take action, and protect your future while you still can.
And welcome back to this second half of the program here. I am your host, David Holland, on Kairos Radio, sponsored by Alpha Omega Gold, on the web at AO.GOLD, or call 855-4AO-GOLD. That's 855-426-4653. You can give us a call on Monday. We'll be in the office. We have a pretty lean staff, but we work hard. So give us a call whenever it's convenient for you. If someone is on the other line or busy at the moment, it should ring through. Leave a quick voicemail. We'll get right back to you. And myself, one of our team will help you out if you have any questions here about gold and silver. But my thought today is now is the time. It is high time. Biblical passage. Paul references there, now is the time. It is high time to wake out of sleep. So if you've been in analysis paralysis, which is, I would say, the theme of this program, it's just time. Here's your wake up call. I'm here. Here's your face-to-face meeting with someone who's telling you don't be in analysis paralysis. Do not overthink everything. Take steps forward, doing the things you need to do, because analysis paralysis is real in this world in which we live. And the state of information is overwhelming. If you just push back history a few years, a few decades, much less, 100 years ago, the state of flow of information was comparatively a trickle. If you lived in a major population center like New York or maybe LA or London or one of the big cities in the world, you had a pretty quick flow of information, and then it was disseminated out into the further reaches. But now, I mean, some guy in the middle of a field in Montana, you know, 100 miles from the nearest person. Montana is the biggest state I could think of with the least amount of people, but you get my drift. Maybe somebody, in Canada, far north Canada, that is, maybe 1,000 miles from the nearest person. I know it's pretty remote up there, but all they have to have is a satellite, maybe Starlink or something like that, and they can be right in the middle, neck deep in the news, just like anyone in any of the big population centers. So no one right now is immune from analysis paralysis. So I just put in a quick Google. So yes, I still use Google. I do use, some of the other AI, machines to analyze, if you will, stuff. But I think it's good in this state that although AI is getting to the point to where it's a little bit better, just taking these things and running multiple things by multiple settings, as well as what you can read and your experience does help. But a quick Google of analysis paralysis gives us a quick overview. It looks like it comes from North Carolina State Bar. It's taken from that website and just gives us a quick overview. It says analysis paralysis is a state of overthinking where excessive research and fear of making a wrong decision lead to inaction or significant delays. Common causes include perfectionism, too many options, and high stakes pressure. Symptoms include constant research, missing deadlines, and mental fatigue. Overcome it by setting deadlines, limiting choices, and embracing, quote, good enough, unquote, decisions. So, this is a pretty good example, I think, of what we're talking about. I I recently had a gentleman, I think it was late last year, who converted a significant amount of money to gold and silver within an IRA, and he's a guy, he's always been a fan of gold and silver, but he's never made the move. And he, I believe, was putting it off just because he was caught up in this. He knew how to, go to garage sales and pick up a good deal here and there. And so he was good at that aspect of understanding gold and silver, but he wasn't good at and trusting of just, you know, researching and then interacting and then making a decision based on that. He just put it off. But things in life got to the point to where he began to think about family and how do I, if I'm not here, what's going to happen? And so he came to us, we helped him make the decision, but it was a significant stress for him to be able to do the whole thing because through the whole thing, he just was caught in the what ifs and the I don't knows. And this is a guy who's, well into his 60s, and it's okay to have. We will help everybody. We walk you through hand holding, encouragement, you name it. You know, my clients who've gone months and months ago, years ago even are, we're talking. They can call me, they can text me, we communicate back and forth. So we're there to help you, not just at the beginning, not just during, but also beyond at Alpha Omega Gold. But this gentleman, just he had a lot of issues, and I understand them because as a human being I have a lot of issues and have had and have overcome some, and I am attempting to overcome others, and I am attempting to, tear down those strongholds that hold me captive or have held me captive, and think outside that, and just run in the freedom that I know God has me. So you can do endless amounts of research. You can go compare, endless gold companies or endless products or endless this. At some point, you have to commit yourself to making a decision because, as the old saying, if you don't make a decision will be made for you. And that is where a lot of people find themselves. So now is the time. Now is the high time. Right now in the world, it is chaotic. But I can tell you right now, you have time to be reasonable, to do research. You can call Alpha Omega Gold. You can drop your information in one of our forums. You can send us an email at info@ao.gold and just asking more questions. that is step one. You are not. I don't know what tomorrow holds. The world, the banking system, could just be set on fire. I don't know. I don't know the US dollar, how much life it has left. It could have years, it could have days. I'm at this point, I'm like you, I'm human. I'm captive in this Chronos timeline, but I know what I know and I can sense what I sense and understand from everything that's around me that things are changing. We're in the middle of monumental change in the world. So today is a good day to get started, to make a move, to take that next step, to just opening the door because, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, right? So one step is going to AO.gold, filling out your information and getting an email or a quick phone call on Monday. That's a quick, very quick way to just take a step. It doesn't commit you into anything. It does not, you're not doing anything that you would normally not do in any sort of situation. But what's going to happen is as we go forward, let's just say this war drags on a lot longer than anyone intended. What's going to happen to markets? What's going to happen to the dollar? What's going to happen to everything that has been fairly stable and fairly normal? What is going to happen to all that? How is that going to play into you, into your future, into your family's choices, into what you have, your resources that you have to be able to take care of them, to be able to provide for them? And if you're a Christian, like I am, I believe I'm held accountable to what I have and how am I going to use that? How is that going to be applied to you going into the future and how you're going to be able to do kingdom work? How are you going to be able to support your local church? How are you going to be able to support missions, things like that? How is all of this going to work when you're just basically the decision's been made for you and you're forced to go a way that you would rather not? You have time today to make a decision, to at least take a step and get more information, to at least take a step and say, "Hey, I'm going to take a look at this." Gold and silver has been around for thousands and thousands of years. Uh, the US dollar in its current state, what, only 50 years into it, maybe, uh, you know, it was gold backed for a little bit and had some value, but, we're now completely disconnected from reality, staring at 40 trillion plus dollars, growing very, very quickly every day. um, Market valuation at all-time highs that seems irrational based on everything that's going on. Central banks buying record amounts of tons of gold. People in other countries, especially in Asia, lining up around the block to buy precious metals. Precious metals selling out in their pipelines in Asia in minutes when it's available and at much higher prices than what we're paying here. Structural silver decline in the amount of silver available due to technology, due to uses in solar and chips and batteries. It's just a structural decline, and there's not enough. There's not enough gold to satisfy demand. There's not enough silver, and there is not enough copper. And that's a story for another day. It is not considered a precious metals, but it is an engine to forward the economy and grow this thing, and there's just not enough. We're structurally deficient in all these things. That's why you're seeing a war for resources. That's why you see changes in Venezuela. That's why you see China being kicked out of Latin America. That's why you see all of this going on. It is a war for resources. The Persian Gulf is no different. It's resources. If there was nothing, if they exported nothing but sand over there, there wouldn't be ships, there wouldn't be explosions, there wouldn't be planes flying over. It would just be another spot somewhere. But there is a structural deficit in the way that this world is operating, and that goes across all boundaries. There may be enough gold out there, but can you afford it at the levels that you want? Most of us can't. And the banks, at this point, the banks don't care how much it is. They're just buying it. China has not, if gold is up, they buy the same amount. If it goes down, they may buy a little bit more, but they are in a consistent structural demand where they are just buying and buying and buying. And we have to prepare our houses. We have to prepare our families the same way. And now is the time. No more analysis paralysis. Take a step. Give us a call. go to our website, ao.gold. Give us a call at 855-4AO-GOLD, and we can help you out taking that first step. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful day. May God bless you, go with you, and we will talk to you next time.